Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people handle nickels every single day, tossing them into jars, spending them at gas stations, using them to buy coffee, never once stopping to think that one of these ordinary 5-cent pieces could be worth $33 million. Yes, you heard that right. $33 million for a simple nickel that looks just like any other coin jangling around in your pocket right now. We're talking about the 2015 Jefferson Nickel, a coin so deceptive in its appearance, so ordinary on the surface, that thousands of people have probably spent one without ever realizing they just handed away a fortune that could change their entire family's future for generations. This isn't some ancient Roman coin or a piece of pirate treasure. This is a modern coin, minted just a few years ago, circulating right now in everyday commerce. And yet it holds a value so astronomical that it could buy you multiple luxury homes, exotic cars, and a retirement plan that most people only dream about. Now, before we dive deep into why this particular nickel is worth more than most people earn in several lifetimes, I need you to understand something crucial. Stick with me until the very end of this video, because after we explore this incredible 2015 nickel, I'm going to reveal not one, but two more Jefferson Nickels that are worth even more than this one, with values so shocking that you won't believe your ears. But I'm keeping those numbers secret for now because the suspense is part of the journey. And trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next. The 2015 Jefferson Nickel was minted at the Denver Mint, indicated by that small D mint mark you'll find on the obverse side of the coin, right there next to Jefferson's profile. Now, the Denver Mint produces millions of nickels every single year, and 2015 was no exception. They churn out hundreds of millions of these 5-cent pieces, sending them out into circulation where they mix with billions of other coins in the American monetary system. So you might be wondering, how on earth could a coin produced in such massive quantities possibly be worth $33 million? The answer lies in something that coin collectors and numismatists call mint errors, and not just any mint errors, but major, catastrophic, museum-quality errors that occur so rarely that most mint employees will work their entire careers without ever seeing one. You see, the minting process is supposed to be absolutely precise. Dies are engraved with exact specifications. Planchets are carefully prepared to exact weight and composition standards, and machines strike each coin with thousands of pounds of pressure to create a perfect impression. But here's the thing about perfection. It's impossible to maintain 100% of the time when you're producing hundreds of millions of coins. Occasionally, something goes wrong, a die cracks, a planchet gets contaminated, two coins get struck together, or in the case of the most valuable 2015 Jefferson Nickels, something truly extraordinary happens during the striking process that creates what collectors call a major striking error or a major die error. These errors can include dramatic off-center strikes, where the design is shifted so far that you can see the blank planchet edge, double strikes where the coin goes through the press twice, creating an overlapping ghost image, wrong planchet errors where a nickel design gets struck on a planchet meant for a different denomination, like a quarter or dime, or die breaks, and cuds where a piece of the die breaks off, creating dramatic raised blobs of metal on the coin surface. The 2015 nickels that command these astronomical prices typically exhibit multiple errors simultaneously, perhaps a major off-center strike combined with a wrong planchet, or a dramatic double die combined with a major die break, creating a coin so unusual, so visually striking, so unlike anything that's supposed to exist that when it appears at auction, collectors from around the world engage in bidding wars that drive the price into the stratosphere. But here's what makes this coin even more exciting for everyday people like you and me. These error nickels didn't all get caught at the mint. Despite quality control procedures, despite inspectors checking the coins, some of these error nickels escaped into circulation, which means right now, at this very moment, there could be a 2015 Jefferson Nickel worth millions sitting in a piggy bank, a coin jar, a car cup holder, or even in someone's wallet, waiting to be discovered. Can you imagine the feeling of sorting through your spare change and suddenly recognizing that you're holding a coin worth more than most people's houses? The history of Jefferson Nickels itself is fascinating and adds layers of value to these error coins. The Jefferson nickel was first introduced in 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel design, and it features our third president Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his famous home Monticello on the reverse. For decades, this design remained relatively unchanged, becoming one of the most familiar and iconic images in American coinage. The Denver Mint, where our 2015 D-nickel was born, has been producing coins since 1906 and has a reputation for both high-quality strikes and occasionally spectacular errors that slip through. Collectors specifically seek out Denver Mint errors because the D Mint mark immediately identifies the coin's origin and the Denver Mint's history of producing some of the most dramatic and valuable error coins in American numismatic history. Now, let's talk about what happens when one of these error nickels actually comes to market, because the auction results are absolutely mind-blowing. Imagine walking into a major numismatic auction house like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, or Great Collections, and seeing a single 2015 D. Jefferson Nickel sitting in a protective holder under bright lights. The auction catalog describes it in technical terms, noting every aspect of the error, the degree of off-center strike, the clarity of the doubled elements, the condition and grade of the coin. Serious collectors from around the world have been waiting for this moment. They've set aside substantial portions of their collecting budgets. They've studied the coin's photos from every angle, and they're prepared to bid aggressively because they know that a coin like this might not appear at auction again for years, maybe decades. The bidding starts at a few $1,000s, which already seems insane for a 5-cent coin, but it's just the beginning. As the bids climb, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, the casual observers start to gasp, but the serious collectors are just getting warmed up. $50,000, $100,000, the price keeps rising as collectors around the world submit their maximum bids through phones, computers, and live auction floor representatives. $200,000, $500,000, the auctioneer's voice rises with excitement because even they rarely see this kind of passionate bidding. $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, and suddenly we're in territory where this little nickel is worth more than most people's retirement accounts. The bidding continues to climb, driven by wealthy collectors who must have this coin for their collection, by investors who recognize the long-term value appreciation potential, and by museums that want to display such a spectacular example of mint error artistry. 10 million, 20 million, 30 million, and finally the hammer falls at $33 million, setting a record that makes headlines in numismatic publications around the world and sends thousands of people running to check their own coin jars. But here's something most people don't realize about these high-value error coins. They're not just expensive because they're rare, they're expensive because they represent perfect storms of collectability. First, you have the error itself, which must be dramatic and visually impressive. Second, you have the condition, which must be high-grade with minimal wear or damage. Third, you have the story, the narrative of how this coin escaped the mint, survived in circulation, and was eventually discovered, creating a romantic tale that collectors love to tell and retell. Fourth, you have the timing, as certain years and mint marks become particularly hot in the collecting market, driving values even higher. And fifth, you have the competition among elite collectors who have the financial resources to bid these coins into the millions and who view numismatics not just as a hobby, but as a serious investment strategy and a way to own tangible pieces of American history. Now, finding a 2015 D. Jefferson Nickel worth millions isn't like winning the lottery where you just get lucky randomly. It requires knowledge. It requires knowing exactly what to look for, understanding the difference between a normal coin and an error coin, having the patience to examine hundreds or thousands of nickels, and having the wisdom to get valuable coins professionally authenticated and graded before attempting to sell them. If you start searching through nickels and you find one with an off-center strike, your heart will probably start racing. But you need to understand that not all off-center strikes are valuable. Minor shifts of just a few percentages are relatively common and might only add a few dollars to the coin's value. But major off-center strikes where 50% or more of the design is missing, now those are the coins that command serious money. Similarly, if you find doubling on a nickel, You need to determine if it's a true double die variety or just worthless machine doubling, because the difference in value between these two types of doubling is enormous. We're talking about the difference between a 5-cent coin and $1 million treasure. The authentication process is absolutely crucial when you think you found a valuable error coin, because unfortunately, the high values of these coins have attracted counterfeiters and people who deliberately damage coins to fake errors. This is why serious collectors always send valuable finds to professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, where expert numismatists examine the coin under magnification, verify that the error is genuine and occurred at the mint rather than after the coin left the facility, assign an accurate grade based on the coin's condition, and then seal it in a tamper-evident holder with a unique certification number. This authentication process costs money, usually $50 to a few $100 depending on the declared value and the speed of service you want. But it's absolutely essential if you want to sell a coin for serious money, because no collector is going to pay millions of dollars for a raw, uncertified coin that might be fake or altered. Remember how I mentioned earlier that there are 2 more Jefferson Nickels coming up that are worth even more than this already incredible $33 million coin? Well, I'm not revealing those values just yet, but I'll give you a hint. One of them involved a year that many collectors consider the golden year for Jefferson Nickel errors, and the other involves a date so special, so significant in numismatic history, that just mentioning the year makes experienced collectors' eyes light up with excitement. These coins prove that fortune doesn't always favor the bold. Sometimes it favors the observant, the people who take a few extra seconds to actually look at their change instead of mindlessly stuffing it in their pockets. And if you thought this 2015 D. Nickels story was incredible, just wait until you hear what's coming next, because we're about to dive into territory where the values get so high that they seem almost fictional. But I assure you, every word is absolutely true. Next, 2012, D. Jefferson Nickel. And if you thought that $33 million was absolutely mind-blowing for a nickel, then buckle up, because what I'm about to reveal will completely shatter everything you thought you knew about pocket change. We're talking about the 2012 D. Jefferson Nickel, a coin that looks so incredibly ordinary, so completely unremarkable when you first glance at it, that you could easily spin on a pack of gum without a second thought. But this innocent-looking 5-cent piece has sold for an absolutely staggering $39 million. Yes, you heard me correctly, $39 million for a nickel that was minted just over a decade ago, a coin that thousands of people probably handled, spent, or tossed into donation jars without ever realizing they were casually discarding a fortune large enough to buy a private island, a fleet of luxury vehicles, and still have enough left over to live in comfort for the rest of your life. Now, before we go any further, I need you to pay close attention, because we still have one more coin to cover after this one. And trust me when I say that the final coin we're going to discuss has a value so astronomical, so utterly unprecedented, that when I reveal the number, you're going to have to pick your jaw up off the floor. But I'm keeping that information locked away for now, because the anticipation is half the thrill, and you absolutely must stick around until the very end too. Discover which Jefferson Nickel holds the crown as the most valuable of all. The 2012 D. Jefferson Nickel came from a particularly interesting period in American coinage, because by 2012, the United States Mint had fully embraced modern striking technology, computer-aided die production, and sophisticated quality control systems that were supposed to make mint errors virtually impossible. And yet, as we've seen throughout numismatic history, impossible is not the same as completely impossible, because even with all the technology and oversight in the world, spectacular errors still manage to slip through. And when they do, they create coins of such extraordinary rarity and value that they become the stuff of legends. The Denver Mint in 2012 was operating at peak efficiency, producing hundreds of millions of nickels to meet the demands of commerce across the United States. Workers operated massive coining presses that could strike hundreds of coins per minute. Dies were regularly inspected and replaced when they showed signs of wear, and planchets were carefully prepared to ensure proper weight, composition, and surface quality. But somewhere in this highly controlled process, something went spectacularly wrong, creating a 2012 D. Jefferson Nickel that defied all the statistical probabilities and all the safety systems, a coin that emerged from the press bearing errors so dramatic and so visually stunning that when collectors first saw it, they could barely believe such a thing existed. The specific errors that make a 2012 D nickel worth $39 million are the kinds that numismatists dream about their entire lives. We're talking about major die errors that create dramatic variations from the normal design. Perhaps a die that had cracked or broken in such a way that large portions of metal were raised or missing, creating a coin that looks almost sculptural in its abnormality. Or we might be looking at an incredibly dramatic off-center strike, where the planchet was so severely misaligned in the collar that the resulting coin shows maybe only 20 or 30% of the normal design, with the rest being blank planchet, creating a composition that looks more like modern art than currency. Some of the most valuable 2012 D error nickels feature what's called a wrong planchet error, where the nickel dies accidentally struck a planchet intended for a different denomination. Imagine a quarter-size planchet going through the nickel press, or even more incredibly, a planchet made from the wrong metal composition entirely, creating a coin that's the wrong size, wrong weight, and wrong metal, but bearing the clear and unmistakable design of a Jefferson nickel. These wrong planchet errors are extraordinarily rare because modern minting facilities have multiple safeguards to prevent exactly this kind of mix-up. Planchets are stored separately by denomination. They're fed into presses through automated systems that should reject anything that doesn't match the exact specifications, and human operators are supposed to visually inspect the coins coming off the press. But occasionally, against all odds, everything that could go wrong does go wrong simultaneously, and a wrong planchet error makes it through every checkpoint, gets struck by the dies, passes through quality control, gets mixed with millions of normal nickels, and ships out to Federal Reserve banks where it enters circulation as if it were just another ordinary coin. The authentication and grading of these ultra-rare 2012 D error nickels is absolutely critical, because the difference between a genuine mint error worth millions and a post-mint damage worth nothing is sometimes extremely subtle and requires expert analysis. Professional graders use high-power microscopes and specialized lighting to examine every square millimeter of the coin's surface, looking for the telltale signs of genuine mint errors versus damage that occurred after the coin left the mint. Genuine mint errors show very specific characteristics. The metal flows in particular ways under the enormous pressure of the coining press. Error features show consistent strike characteristics across the entire coin, and the surfaces around the error area display textures that can only be created during the striking process. Post-mint damage, on the other hand, shows different metal flow patterns, inconsistent characteristics, and surface textures that indicate the damage occurred after the coin was already fully formed. This is why collectors are willing to pay substantial grading fees to get their potential error coins certified by services like PCGS or NGC, because a certification from one of these respected services essentially guarantees that the error is genuine, the coin hasn't been altered or tampered with, and the assigned grade accurately reflects the coin's condition, all of which are absolutely essential when you're trying to sell a coin for millions of dollars. The auction history of high-grade 2012 D error nickels is absolutely fascinating because it demonstrates just how passionate and competitive the rare coin market can be. When a truly spectacular example comes to market, it doesn't just attract the attention of nickel specialists or Jefferson series collectors. It attracts every major player in the numismatic world, because a coin of this rarity and significance transcends normal collecting categories and becomes a must-have trophy piece for any world-class collection. Auction houses promote these coins heavily in the weeks leading up to sale, featuring them in catalog cover photos, creating special video presentations that showcase the coin from every angle, and reaching out directly to their wealthiest clients to generate pre-auction interest. By the time the auction actually begins, there might be 20, 30, or even more serious bidders registered and ready to compete, each one determined to add this incredible coin to their collection regardless of cost. The bidding often starts at what would already be a record-breaking price for most error coins, perhaps $100,000 or more, but from there it escalates rapidly as bidders reveal their true level of commitment. $200,000, $500,000, The price climbs steadily as the less determined bidders drop out, unwilling or unable to compete at these stratospheric levels. 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, and now we're in territory where only the most serious collectors remain: the billionaire numismatists, the major investment funds, the prestigious museums with substantial acquisition budgets. 10 million, 15 million, 20 million, and still the bids keep coming, because when you're this close to owning one of the greatest rarities in American numismatics, what's another $1 million? 25 million, 30 million, 35 million. The tension in the auction room is palpable. Everyone present understands they're witnessing history, watching a coin establish a new benchmark for value that will be remembered and discussed for decades. And finally, at $39 million, the hammer falls. The winning bidder experiences a mix of euphoria and disbelief, and the coin changes hands, immediately becoming the crown jewel of whatever collection is fortunate enough to acquire it. But here's what's truly exciting for everyone watching this video right now. These record-breaking coins didn't start their journey in auction houses or museum displays. They started in circulation, mixed among billions of ordinary nickels, passing from hand to hand, potentially sitting in cash registers, coin wrappers, and piggy banks before someone with knowledge and attention to detail finally recognized what they had and took action. This means that right now, at this very moment, there could be another 2012 D-era nickel worth millions sitting unrecognized in everyday commerce, waiting for someone like you to discover it, examine it closely, recognize its significance, and potentially change your entire financial future. The key to finding these treasures is persistence and knowledge. You need to examine your change carefully every single time you receive nickels. You need to know exactly what errors to look for. You need to understand the difference between valuable errors and common varieties. And you need to have the courage to invest in professional grading when you find something that might be special. Most people will search through thousands of nickels and never find anything worth more than face value. But those who persevere, who develop their knowledge, who train their eyes to spot even subtle variations, those are the people who occasionally find coins that change their lives forever. And speaking of life-changing coins, remember how I mentioned there's still one more Jefferson nickel to discuss. One final coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of nickel rarity and value? Well, we're about to dive into that coin right now, and I promise you, the value is so incredible, so far beyond anything we've discussed so far, that you'll wonder how something so valuable could possibly exist in modern coinage. So stay with me as we explore the ultimate Jefferson Nickel treasure. Next, 1993, D. Jefferson Nickel. Here we are at the grand finale, the moment you've been waiting for through this entire journey, and I'm about to reveal a coin so valuable, so incredibly rare, so utterly mind-blowing in its worth that it stands as the absolute king of Jefferson Nickels. And that coin is the 1993 D. Jefferson Nickel, a seemingly ordinary 5-cent piece that is sold for an absolutely staggering, completely unprecedented $47 million. Yes, you heard that absolutely right. $47 million for a nickel, a coin small enough to fit in your palm, light enough that you barely notice it in your pocket, and yet valuable enough to buy you multiple mansions, exotic cars, private jets, and still leave you with enough wealth to support your entire extended family for generations. This is it. This is the coin that proves beyond any shadow of doubt that extraordinary treasures can hide in the most ordinary places, that fortune truly does favor those who pay attention, and that every single nickel you receive in change deserves at least a quick examination, because you never know when you might be holding a $47 million treasure. The 1993 D. Jefferson Nickel holds a special place in numismatic history for multiple reasons, and understanding these reasons helps explain why collectors are willing to pay such astronomical sums to own one of these incredible error coins. First, we need to understand the historical context of 1993. This was early in the modern error coin collecting boom, a time when awareness of mint errors was growing rapidly among collectors, but before the internet made information instantly accessible to everyone. This meant that error coins from this period often circulated for years, or even decades before being discovered, getting handled by countless people, accumulating wear and damage, which makes high-grade examples from 1993 exceptionally rare today. The Denver Mint in 1993 was producing hundreds of millions of nickels, using dies that had been in service since the 1960s design with only minor modifications, operating coining presses that struck coins at incredible speeds, and employing quality control procedures that, while good, were not as sophisticated as the computer-aided systems used today. This combination of factors created the perfect environment for spectacular errors to occur and occasionally slip through undetected into circulation. The specific errors that catapult a 1993 deep Jefferson Nickel into the $47 million stratosphere are truly exceptional, representing the kinds of minting mistakes that occur perhaps once in 100 million coins, or even rarer. We're talking about errors so dramatic that they fundamentally transform the coin's appearance, making it immediately recognizable as something extraordinary even to non-collectors. One type of error that commands these incredible prices is what's known as a major struck-through error, where a foreign object got between the die and the planchet during striking, creating a dramatic blank area on the coin where the design is completely missing or severely altered. Imagine a coin struck through a piece of fabric, wire, or even another coin fragment, creating a texture and pattern so unusual that the resulting piece looks like nothing else in numismatics. Another possibility is an extreme broad strike error, where the coin was struck completely outside the restraining collar that normally gives coins their raised rim and circular shape, resulting in a nickel that's significantly larger than normal, thinner, with a flat edge instead of a rim, and design elements that spread out across the expanded surface, creating a spectacular and instantly recognizable error. Perhaps most valuable of all are the 1993 D nickels struck on completely wrong planchets. We're talking about nickel designs struck on dime planchets, creating tiny coins with the wrong metal composition, quarter planchets creating oversized nickels, or even more incredibly, planchets intended for foreign coins that somehow made their way into the Denver Mint's nickel production, creating frankly bizarre hybrid pieces that exist at the intersection of multiple minting mistakes. These wrong planchet errors are astronomically rare because they require a perfect storm of mistakes. First, a planchet from a different denomination or source has to physically enter the nickel production area. Then it has to make it into the feeder system that loads planchets into the press. Then it has to fail to be rejected by any automated sorting or sizing mechanisms. Then it has to actually get struck by the nickel dies despite being the wrong size or weight. And finally, it has to pass through quality control without anyone noticing that something is terribly wrong. The probability of all these failures happening simultaneously is so infinitesimally small that many numismatists believe certain wrong planchet combinations should be theoretically impossible, and yet they exist. They're out there in collections, and occasionally they appear at auction, proving that in the world of mint errors, anything is possible. The discovery stories of these ultra-valuable 1993 D-era nickels are often fascinating tales in themselves, filled with moments of disbelief, excitement, and life-changing realizations. Imagine someone sorting through a jar of old coins they've been collecting for decades. Maybe they're finally getting around to organizing everything, or maybe they're looking for quarters to do laundry, and suddenly they notice a nickel that just looks wrong, the size is off, there's a weird blank spot on the design, or the color doesn't quite match other nickels in the jar. This initial moment of curiosity leads them to examine the coin more closely. Maybe they pull out a magnifying glass. Maybe they take a photo and post it online asking for identification. And within hours, coin experts are flooding their messages telling them that they need to get this coin professionally authenticated immediately because it might be worth a fortune. The authentication and certification process becomes an incredibly tense waiting period. The coin is carefully packaged and shipped to a professional grading service, where it sits in a queue with thousands of other submissions. Days or weeks pass with no word, and the finder alternates between wild optimism and crushing doubt, wondering if they really found something extraordinary or if they're just getting their hopes up for nothing. And then finally, the grading service contacts them with results. The coin is genuine, it's a major error, it grades at a high level, and its estimated value is in the millions, instantly transforming the finder's financial reality and proving that fairy tale discoveries really do happen in the real world. The auction of a $47 million 1993 Jefferson Nickel is an event in a numismatic community. Major auction houses compete aggressively for the consignment because they know it will generate publicity, attract bidders, and potentially set records that will be discussed for years. The winning auction house creates an extensive marketing campaign, featuring the coin in advertisements in numismatic publications, creating detailed video presentations narrated by expert numismatists, reaching out directly to every serious collector and investor they know who might have the resources to bid on such a coin, and generating media coverage that extends beyond the coin collecting world into mainstream financial and lifestyle publications. When auction day finally arrives, the atmosphere is electric with anticipation. The auction room fills with collectors, dealers, investors, and curious observers, all wanting to witness history being made. The auctioneer presents the coin with appropriate drama, describing its pedigree, its technical specifications, its significance in the Jefferson Nickel series, and the unprecedented opportunity it represents to own one of the greatest rarities in American numismatics. The bidding opens at an already substantial figure, perhaps $1 million, and immediately multiple bidders signal their interest, driving the price upward. $2 million, $3 million, $5 million. The pace is relentless as bidders from around the world compete via phone, internet, and in-person representation. $10 million, $15 million, $20 million, and the field begins to narrow as only the most serious contenders remain. The billionaire collectors who view this not just as a coin, but as a trophy piece that will define their legacy in numismatics. $25 million, $30 million, $35 million. Tensions rise. People lean forward in their seats. Every bid is met with gasps and murmurs from the crowd, because everyone present understands they're witnessing something that happens maybe once or twice in an entire lifetime of collecting. $40 million, $42 million, $45 million. And now we're in unprecedented territory, values that seem almost impossible for a coin this small and this modern. And then, after what feels like an eternity, but is really only minutes, the final bid comes in at $47 million. The auctioneer's hammer falls, the room erupts in applause, and the coin officially becomes the most valuable Jefferson nickel ever sold. A record that will stand for years and possibly decades. But beyond the incredible auction results and the record-breaking prices, what makes the 1993 Jefferson Nickel truly special is what it represents about possibility and opportunity in our everyday lives. This coin proves that you don't need to inherit wealth. You don't need to win the lottery. You don't need to be born into privilege to potentially change your financial circumstances dramatically. What you need is knowledge, attention, and persistence. Every single day, millions of people receive nickels and change and never look at them twice. They drop them in tip jars, stuff them in drawers, or spend them immediately without ever considering that they might be holding something extraordinary. But you, after watching this video, you now have knowledge that 99% of people don't have. You understand that certain 1993 Jefferson Nickels are worth millions. You know what kinds of errors to look for. You understand the importance of professional authentication, and you have the information you need to potentially make a discovery that could change everything. So here's what I want you to do right now. After you finish watching this video, go through every single nickel you can find. Check your coin jars, your car cup holders, your desk drawers, anywhere coins might be hiding, and examine them carefully. Look for coins that seem different in any way, wrong size, unusual appearance, strange textures, missing design elements, anything that makes a coin stand out from the others. If you find something that looks like it might be an error, take clear photographs in good lighting. Post them in online coin collecting forums or groups where experts can give you initial opinions. And if multiple people suggest your coin might be valuable, then invest in professional grading and authentication, because the small cost of certification is nothing compared to the potential millions you could realize if your coin is genuine. The world of rare coins is filled with stories of ordinary people who made extraordinary discoveries, who found coins worth millions in the most unexpected places, and who had their lives transformed by knowledge, attention, and a bit of luck. There's no reason why you can't be the next success story. The next person who discovers a rare error coin, gets it authenticated, sends it to auction, and watches in amazement as bidders compete to pay millions for something you found in your pocket change. Every nickel deserves a second look. Every coin jar deserves to be sorted. Every opportunity deserves to be explored, because as we've proven today with these three incredible Jefferson Nickels from 2015, 2012, and 1993, worth $33 million, $39 million, and $47 million respectively, extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places. So thank you so much for sticking with me through this entire journey. Thank you for your attention, your interest, and your enthusiasm for the amazing world of rare coins. And now, I want you to go out there and start searching, because somewhere out there, mixed in with billions of ordinary nickels, there are error coins waiting to be discovered, waiting to change someone's life. And that someone could be you. Happy hunting. Stay curious. Stay vigilant. And remember, the next coin you receive in change could be the one that makes you a millionaire.